New York City's Le Bernardin from chef Eric Ripert has 3 Michelin stars and is unquestionably one of the best restaurants in the world. While their elaborate tasting menus served in the main dining room may receive the most attention, the restaurant also has a lounge that's more laid back and serves some intriguing a la carte options, including a lobster roll. To put it simply, I had to try that lobster roll, plus I enjoyed a few other courses as well.
It's a beautiful day today here in New York City. Right now I'm in Midtown Manhattan at Bryant Park, and I'm just doing a little bit of relaxing after I had an incredible lunch at one of the best restaurants in New York City, and one of the best restaurants in the country, never mind the world. I went to Le Bernardin. Now, I've been to Le Bernardin before. I was there for dinner and had their full-on tasting menu, and it ended up being one of the best meals of my entire life. Today, I took things a bit more casual. Instead of enjoying a lunch in the dining room, I went to their lounge. The lounge has their own menu, as well as some courses that you just can't get in the dining room. And there was one course in particular that I had my eye on for a while, their lobster roll. I love lobster rolls, and the thought of perhaps one of the greatest seafood restaurants in the world making one, now that certainly intrigued me. One thing that I've always found pretty interesting and fun is when these top-tier fine dining restaurants approach these sort of simple, casual dishes and place them on their menus. For instance, last year I went to the 2 Michelin starred at the Modern and enjoyed their bucket of fried chicken and fries, which was delicious and just a fun dish in general. Now, those dishes aren't necessarily the ones that earn the restaurant their Michelin stars or accolades, but they come out of the same kitchen, they're cooked by the same chefs, and thus get that same level of professionalism in their creation. Plus, as much as I love a good tasting menu, it's not how I want to eat all the time. So I love the option to have something casual like a lobster roll or a bucket of fried chicken and french fries. So that's why I was at Le Bernardin today, to have their lobster roll, plus I enjoyed a few other courses which were quite special as well. This was my lunch at Le Bernardin.
Le Bernardin is located in Midtown Manhattan, but it was actually started in Paris, France back in 1972 by the sibling duo of Maggie and Gilbert Lacoste. It was in 1986 that the restaurant made the move to New York City and was an instant success, earning 4 stars from the New York Times a mere 3 months after opening. After the unexpected and unfortunate passing of Gilbert in 1994, chef Eric Ripert took over the kitchen and brought Le Bernardin even more acclaim and success, all the while staying true to the restaurant's philosophy that the fish is the star of the plate. I arrived soon after the restaurant opened on a weekday for lunch and was escorted to the lounge. While the main dining room of course takes reservations, the lounge is reserved exclusively for walk-ins. In terms of the design and atmosphere of the lounge, it was nice. It maintained some of the elegance which can be found in the dining room, but it was also more casual and laid back. Once I settled in, I began to look over the menus, and there were 2. One menu was the City Harvest 3-course prix-fixe, which is exclusive to the lounge. City Harvest is a non-profit organization that collects unused food from restaurants, bakeries, and cafes and distributes it to New Yorkers facing hunger. Chef Ripert is the vice chairman of City Harvest, and with every purchase of the City Harvest menu, $5 is donated to the organization. The 3-course prix-fixe is offered for $94. Of course, that's a bit costly, but the fact that Le Bernardin is a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in New York City and a portion of that cost goes to a fine charity, then I believe that's pretty good value. However, I wasn't in the lounge for the prix-fixe. I was going to be ordering a la carte. The selection was minimal. There was a caviar service and a very decadent-sounding croque monsieur for $120. The other courses sounded great, although they weren't quite as elaborate as most of the offerings served in the dining room. However, the lounge menu does include Le Bernardin's signature tuna dish, which I'll definitely have to try in the future. Next, I explored the beverage offerings. While the restaurant is revered for their wine selection, I felt like trying a cocktail. I chose the MLC, which contained Vita Mescal, Joven, lime, Macroute lime, leaf agave, and Macroute scented salt. The drink hit the spot, the concoction was well made, and the flavors were nicely balanced. Le Bernardin can certainly make a fine cocktail. It wasn't long until I was presented with a selection of bread. I thoroughly enjoyed the bread on my last visit in the dining room, but I wasn't sure that it would be served in the lounge. I was happy to see it, not only because it's fine bread, but Le Bernardin isn't necessarily known for offering the largest portions. This time I got a brioche roll, a slice of rosemary focaccia, and later a piece of raisin bread. Once again, the bread didn't disappoint. Everything was fresh with the textures on the mark. The butter was a delight as well. It was smooth as silk. Just like on my last meal, I preferred the brioche, but everything was really a true delight. Soon enough, I was presented with my first course, the hamachi, which consisted of hamachi flying fish roe tartare and a ginger wasabi vinaigrette. It was also paired with some crisp toast. It was an intriguing looking dish and I couldn't wait to give it a try. The course was fantastic. The hamachi was nice and tender, but I particularly enjoyed the texture and pop of the fish roe. Next, I combined the small pieces of toast to the mixture, and it equated to be a fine addition as it lent another flavor profile as well as a crisp textural element. My favorite component of the course, however, was the ginger wasabi vinaigrette, which was a harmonious mixture of flavors. Wasabi can be a difficult element to work with, as too much of it can easily overwhelm a dish, but I thought that the course was perfectly balanced. It was refreshing, slightly sweet, and had a bit of heat to awaken my palate for the food ahead. So far, my lunch was off to a great start, but soon enough, I was presented with the course that brought me to Le Bernardin in the first place, the lobster roll.
Oh, it looks good.
Instead of one large roll, I was presented with 3 smaller ones, which makes the dish ideal for sharing. However, after trying it, there's no way in hell that I would be sharing mine with anyone. The course was also paired with a rich truffle-like sauce that was applied tableside, but I was also left with a glass of the sauce to add more if I liked. As far as the lobster, it was served warm in a beautifully buttered and toasted black truffle bun. It looked extremely appetizing, and I couldn't wait to try it. Simply put, the lobster roll was incredible. It was rich and luscious. I loved it. First off, it's not a traditional lobster roll for a few reasons. In Le Bernardin's creation, the lobster meat is served warm, whereas in a traditional lobster roll, the meat is served cold. As a result, Le Bernardin's concoction is similar to a classic Connecticut-style lobster roll. However, by far, the most unique aspect of the restaurant's dish was the sauce. It was extremely rich and savory. It also provided a blast of umami flavor. While I appreciate a traditional lobster roll where the flavor of the lobster truly shines, I love the sauce Le Bernardin paired with their creation. It didn't overwhelm or obscure the lobster, rather it complemented it. It was so good that when I finished my lobster roll, I would have drank the remaining sauce out of the glass if no one was looking. In terms of the bun, I thought that it was perfection. It was very buttery and it was texturally on the mark. There was the right amount of squishiness, but it also had that delicate and subtle crisp where it was toasted. In regards to the size of the dish, I thought that it was adequate. Recently, I was walking through Grand Central Terminal and passed an outpost of Luke's Lobster. I checked out their menu and noticed how costly their prices were. If Luke's Lobster, a somewhat casual lobster roll chain, was charging as much as $50 for a simple lobster roll combo, I was wondering just what kind of size Le Bernardin's lobster roll would be since it came with a price tag of $54, only $4 more. I feared that Le Bernardin's offering could have been microscopic. However, I thought that the size of the dish and the price that it was paired with was more than fair. At the end of the day, lobster is a luxury ingredient, and Le Bernardin is one of the best seafood restaurants in the world. It's gonna be costly, but it was worth every penny to me. After finishing, it was time for dessert. Now, I wasn't sure if dessert was actually served in the lounge since I didn't see a lounge-specific menu online, but thankfully it is. There was a good variety of tasty-sounding options, and after making my selection, I was presented not with the dessert I ordered, but rather a pleasant surprise. Not long after I arrived to Le Bernardin, I was recognized from my last visit and thus was very generously given a complimentary course known simply as the egg. Basically, it's a hollowed out egg filled with milk chocolate pâte de crème, caramel foam, maple syrup, and topped with a few grains of salt. The dish was simply wonderful. The flavors were certainly familiar, but they're utterly delicious. In fact, I actually enjoyed the egg on my last visit, and I've gotta say that it was just as good having it a second time. After finishing the egg, it was time for the actual dessert that I ordered, the banana toffee. The dish was a banana sticky toffee pudding that included a bourbon crème anglaise poured tableside. It was a beautifully fashioned dish, and I was eager to give it a go. As expected, the dessert didn't disappoint. The whole creation was really a salute to the banana, which was showcased in a variety of ways. The cake itself was on point. It was fresh, pleasant, and soft. A wonderful scoop of ice cream topped the concoction, along with some sort of cookies, which added a delightful crunch. Surrounding the cake were pieces of banana, which were very tasty. Finally, the bourbon crème anglaise complemented the whole thing perfectly. All in all, that was an excellent dessert, but my meal wasn't quite over yet. To finish things off, I was presented with a selection of petit fours. On the plate, I believe, was a pistachio financier, a strawberry macaron, and a wonderful chocolatey bite. All of them were delicious and proved to be a fine ending to a great lunch. Overall, I really enjoyed my experience in Le Bernardin's lounge. Just like on my previous visit, the service was excellent and the food was remarkable. Plus, I found the more casual nature of the lounge to be a nice alternative to the more formal dining room. After finishing, it was time for the bill, which totaled to $149.16, but with my tip, I spent about $180. It was certainly expensive, but it was worth it to me.
So that was one hell of a fine meal. I really enjoyed that, but it's Le Bernardin. I am not surprised. The lobster roll was excellent. Now, it's certainly not your typical lobster roll, but I liked the twist Le Bernardin put on it. The flavors were just so rich, and the lobster was just so luscious. Ugh, so good, so good. Plus, I loved all the other food I had. That hamachi was wonderful, and it brought such a nice pop to it. That was just the perfect start to my meal. Once again, the egg dessert was excellent. It was just as good as the last time I had it. The flavors are simple, but they're just so utterly delightful. The banana toffee was a joy to eat as well. It was a wonderful celebration of the banana in all its excellent flavors and textures. And unfortunately, just like my first visit, it was expensive. But I'm a fan of food, and these are the experiences that I live for, so to me it was worth it. Plus, I was feeling a little down yesterday because I just got rejected from running in the New York City Marathon for what may be the 8th or 9th time. Yeah, I wasn't feeling great. I mean, it is a tough marathon to get in, but Le Bernardin totally revitalized my spirits. There is true magic in good food, and what Le Bernardin puts on a plate is something that's truly special. To sum it up, once again, I had another incredible meal from Le Bernardin. That restaurant is truly one of the greats. I really enjoyed the more casual and approachable aspect of the lounge, and that lobster roll was phenomenal. In conclusion, I had a great lunch, and I will definitely be back to Le Bernardin.